The rain came down in sheets, turning the cracked sidewalks of Willow Creek into a maze of shallow puddles. Ellie Harper, clutching a flimsy umbrella, hustled along Main Street, her sneakers soaked through. Her shift at the diner had ended an hour ago, but the memory of a spilled coffee and a customer's sharp words still stung. She glanced at her watch, 6:47 p.m. She had 13 minutes to pick up her son, Noah, from after-school care before they charge her late fees she couldn't afford. One foot in front of the other, Ellie, she told herself, the mantra of a single mom who'd learned to keep moving no matter what. That's when she saw it, a sleek black leather wallet half submerged in a puddle by the curb. It looked out of place like a diamond in a coal mine. Ellie stopped, her breath catching. Who leaves something like that on the ground? She crouched, fishing it out with 2 fingers. Water dripped from the edges, but the leather felt expensive, the kind of thing you'd find in a city penthouse, not a sleepy town like Willow Creek. She glanced around, half expecting someone to come running, but the street was empty, the rain driving everyone indoors. Inside the wallet, she found a driver's license, a stack of crisp $100 bills, and a black credit card that gleamed like obsidian. The license read, James Alexander Bennett, 34, Chicago, Illinois. His photo stared back at her, sharp jawline, dark eyes, a hint of a smirk that suggested he knew something the rest of the world didn't. Ellie's heart raced. This wasn't just a wallet, it was someone's life. And those bills, more money than she'd seen in months, could fix the leak in her apartment ceiling, pay for Noah's new shoes, maybe even cover a week's groceries. But she didn't hesitate. Ellie wasn't wired that way. She'd been raised on her grandma's stories about doing right, even when it hurt. She pulled out her cracked phone, dialed the number listed on a business card tucked inside, and waited as it rang. Each ring felt heavier, like the universe was testing her. What if he doesn't answer? What if he thinks I took something? Hello. The voice on the other end was smooth, low, with a hint of impatience. Ellie froze, suddenly aware of the rain soaking her hoodie. Hi. This is Ellie Harper. I found your wallet. On Main Street, Willow Creek. It's got your ID, some cash. She trailed off, feeling foolish. Why am I nervous? I'm just returning his stuff. A pause, then a sharp intake of breath. You're kidding. You actually found it. The voice softened, tinged with disbelief. I'm about an hour out. Can you hold on to it? I'll come to you. Ellie blinked. You're coming here? To Willow Creek. Yeah. Name a place. I owe you one. His tone was brisk now, like he was used to giving orders. The diner on Main. It's called Rosie's. I'll be here. She hung up before she could overthink it, her stomach twisting. Why does he sound like he's running from something? Rosie's diner smelled of fried onions and nostalgia, its red vinyl booze worn but welcoming. Ellie sat at the counter, the wallet tucked in her purse like a ticking bomb. Noah, her 6-year-old, was with her now, coloring on a placemat with a stubby crayon. His dark curls fell into his eyes, and he hummed softly, oblivious to the weight on his mom's shoulders. Ellie glanced at him, her heart aching. Noah deserved better than a mom who counted pennies for milk, but she was doing her best. After her ex walked away 4 years ago, leaving her with a toddler and a stack of bills, best meant surviving one day at a time. The bell above the door jingled, and Ellie's head snapped up. A man stepped inside, shaking rain from his coat. He was tall, broad-shouldered, in a tailored suit that screamed money. His dark hair was damp, curling slightly at the ends, and those eyes, sharp, searching, locked onto her like they could see through walls. James Bennett, she thought, her pulse quickening. He looked exactly like his license photo, only more intense, more alive. You Ellie? He asked, striding over. His voice carried that same smooth confidence from the phone, but up close, it had a warmth that caught her off guard. Yeah, that's me. She slid the wallet across the counter, careful not to touch the puddle of coffee she hadn't wiped up. It's all there. Didn't touch a thing. James opened it, his fingers quick but deliberate, like he was checking for something specific. He nodded, satisfied, then looked at her, really looked like he was memorizing her face. You're honest, he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Not everyone would have called. Ellie shrugged, brushing a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. It's what people do. But her cheeks warmed under his gaze, and she hated how it made her feel seen in a way she hadn't been in years. Noah looked up, his crayon pausing. "Mom, who's that?" James's eyes flicked to the boy, softening. "Hey, buddy. I'm James. Your mom saved my day." He crouched slightly, meeting Noah's curious stare. "What's your name?" "Noah," he said, then went back to coloring, unimpressed. Ellie stifled a laugh. Kids had a way of cutting through pretension. James straightened, his smile lingering. "I owe you, Ellie. Coffee, at least. On me." He gestured to the counter, where her half-empty mug sat. She hesitated. "I'm good. Just glad you got your stuff back." But he didn't budge. "Come on. One coffee. I'm not leaving till you say yes." There was something in his tone, not pushy, but earnest, like he meant it. Ellie's guard wavered. She wasn't used to men like this. Men who looked at her like she was more than a tired mom in a faded hoodie. "Fine," she said, "but I'm buying Noah a hot chocolate." "Deal." James slid into the stool beside her, waving over the waitress. As they waited, he leaned closer, his voice low. "So, Ellie Harper, what's your story?" Nobody just finds a wallet and calls it in without a second thought. She laughed, a little bitter. "My story? Work, bills, and keeping this guy fed." She nodded at Noah, who was now drawing a lopsided dinosaur. "Not much else to tell." James's eyes narrowed, like he didn't buy it. "I bet there's more." The words hung between them, heavy with possibility. Ellie's heart thudded. Why does he care? She didn't know him, didn't know why a man like James, Chicago address, fancy suit, was in a nowhere town like Willow Creek. But something about his gaze, the way it lingered, made her wonder if he saw her. The real her, not just the single mom scraping by. The waitress set down their drinks, and James slid a 20 across the counter like it was nothing. Ellie noticed the way his hands moved, steady, sure, but with a faint tremor, like he was holding something back. "What's your story, James Bennett?" She thought. They talked, haltingly at first. Ellie mentioned the diner, how she'd worked there since high school. James said he was passing through, though he dodged why. He asked about Noah, and she lit up, sharing how her son loved dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist. James listened, really listened, his eyes never leaving her face. It was disarming, the way he seemed to care about her words, not just her actions. Then Noah piped up. "Mom, we're late for Mrs. Carter's." His babysitter, who lived 2 blocks away. Ellie's stomach sank. "Right. We gotta go." She stood, slinging her purse over her shoulder. "Thanks for the coffee, James." He stood too, faster than she expected. "Let me drive you. It's pouring out there." She shook her head. "We're fine. It's not far." "Ellie." His voice was firm, but his eyes were soft. "Let me do this. You saved my day. Least I can do is keep you dry." She wanted to argue, but Noah was already tugging her hand, and the rain was relentless. "Okay," she said, "but just to Mrs. Carter's." James's car was a sleek black SUV, the kind that cost more than Ellie's rent for a year. Inside, it smelled of leather and something faintly spicy, like his cologne. Noah climbed into the back, chattering about dinosaurs, while Ellie sat up front, hyper-aware of James's presence. He drove carefully, glancing at her every few seconds, like he was trying to figure her out. "Why Willow Creek?" she asked, breaking the silence. "You don't look like you belong here." He chuckled, a low, warm sound. "Business. Sort of. It's complicated." "Complicated how?" She tilted her head, catching the way his jaw tightened. "Let's just say I'm figuring things out." He paused, then added, "Like you, maybe." Ellie laughed, surprised. "Me? I'm not figuring anything out. I'm just surviving." His eyes flicked to her, serious now. "Surviving's harder than it looks. Takes guts." The compliment hit her harder than it should have. She looked away, focusing on the rain streaking the windshield. They pulled up to Mrs. Carter's, and Ellie unbuckled Noah, who was already half asleep. James got out, holding an umbrella over them as they walked to the door. It was a small gesture, but it warmed her like a flicker of light in a long, dark day. At the door, she turned to him. "Thanks, James, for the ride. And the hot chocolate." He smiled, but there was something in his eyes, something heavy, like he wanted to say more. "Ellie, If you ever need anything, he trailed off, handing her card with his number. Call me. I mean it. She took it, her fingers brushing his. I will, she said, though she wasn't sure she meant it. As he drove away, Ellie stood under the porch light, the card heavy in her hand. Why does he look at me like he knows me? The question lingered, unanswered, as the rain kept falling. Ellie Harper stood in her cramped kitchen, the business card James had given her pinned under a magnet on the fridge. It had been 3 days since she'd returned his wallet, 3 days since that rainy night when he'd looked at her like she was more than just a tired single mom. Why does he look at me like he knows me? The question had haunted her, looping through her mind as she scrubbed dishes at Rosie's diner or tucked Noah into bed. She hadn't called him. Not yet. The card felt like a door she wasn't sure she was brave enough to open. But life had a way of pushing her forward. That morning, as she poured Noah's cereal, her landlord had slipped a note under her door. Rent due. No extensions. Her heart sank. She was already stretching every dollar, and Noah's school had sent a reminder about unpaid field trip fees. She glanced at the card again, James's number in crisp black ink. If you ever need anything, he'd said. But what did that mean? A man like him, polished, wealthy, didn't belong in her world of late bills and second-hand clothes. Mom, you okay? Noah's voice snapped her back. He was at the table, spoon halfway to his mouth, his brown eyes wide with worry. Yeah, buddy. Ellie forced a smile. Just thinking. You ready for school? He nodded, but his gaze lingered, like he could sense the weight she carried. Kid were like that, small but sharp. She ruffled his curls and grabbed her keys, pushing James's card to the back of her mind. For now. The diner was slow that afternoon, the lunch rush barely a trickle. Ellie was wiping down the counter when her phone buzzed. An unknown number. Her stomach flipped, but she answered, expecting a bill collector. Ellie? It's James. James Bennett. His voice was warm, familiar, like they'd known each other longer than one rainy evening. She froze, rag in hand. James? How'd you get my number? You called me, remember? He chuckled, and she could almost see that half-smile from his driver's license photo. Look, I'm in Willow Creek again. Can we meet? I owe you more than a coffee. Her mind raced. He's back. Why? Part of her wanted to say no, to keep her safe, predictable life intact. But another part, the part that noticed how her heart sped up at his voice, whispered to take a chance. I'm at Rosie's till 4, she said finally. You know where to find me. See you then. He hung up, leaving her staring at the phone, her thoughts a tangle of curiosity and caution. When James walked into Rosie's at 3:45, the air shifted. He wore jeans this time, a navy sweater that made his eyes look darker, but he still carried that city polish. Customers glanced up, sensing he didn't quite fit in Willow Creek's faded charm. He slid into a booth, catching her eye with a nod. Ellie finished her shift, her hands shaky as she untied her apron. She joined him, sliding into the booth across from him. So, she said, keeping her tone light, you didn't answer my question last time. Why are you in Willow Creek? And don't say business. James leaned back, his smile fading. Fair enough. He paused, like he was weighing how much to share. I'm taking a break. From Chicago, for my life there. Things got messy. Messy how? Ellie tilted her head, catching the shadow that crossed his face. He hesitated, then leaned forward, lowering his voice. I built a company. Tech stuff, apps, big deals. Made a lot of money, but I burned bridges doing it. Hurt people I cared about. I came here to clear my head, figure out what's next. Ellie nodded slowly. His honesty surprised her, but it also raised questions. So you're what? Hiding out in a small town? That's not very millionaire of you. He laughed, a real laugh that crinkled his eyes. Maybe not, but it's quiet here. And then I met you. His gaze softened, and there was again that look like he saw something in her she didn't see herself. You didn't just give me my wallet back, Ellie. You reminded me people can still be good. Her cheeks warmed, and she looked away, focusing on the salt shaker between them. I just did what anyone would. No, he said firmly. Not anyone. You. The words hung there, heavy with meaning she wasn't ready to unpack. Before she could respond, the diner door jingled, and Noah burst in, backpack bouncing. Mom. Mrs. Carter said I could come early. Ellie's heart lifted, but her stomach twisted. She hadn't arranged for Noah to be here. Mrs. Carter must have had an emergency. Hey, buddy, she said, pulling him close. This is James, remember? Noah squinted at him. The wallet guy? James grinned. That's me. You still into dinosaurs? Noah's face lit up, and he launched into a story about a T-Rex fossil he'd seen in a book. James listened, asking questions, even sketching a dinosaur on a napkin to Noah's delight. Ellie watched, her guard softening. James wasn't just charming. He was present, in a way her ex never had been. Over the next week, James became a fixture in Ellie's life, showing up at the diner with small gestures, a new sketchbook for Noah, a coffee for her before her shift. Each time, he stayed a little longer, their conversations deepening. He told her about growing up in Chicago, how his dad walked away when he was 10, leaving him to help his mom pay bills. I learned early that money fixes things, he said one evening, his voice quiet. But it doesn't fix everything. Ellie shared her own story, haltingly, how her ex, Mark, had left when Noah was 2, chasing dreams that didn't include them. I thought I'd failed, she admitted, stirring her coffee. But Noah keeps me going. James reached across the table, his hand brushing hers. You're not failing, Ellie. You're stronger than you know. Her breath caught, his touch sending a spark through her. She pulled back, not because she wanted to, but because it scared her how much she didn't. Then came the conflict. One morning, Ellie arrived at Noah's school to find a notice taped to the door. Field trip payment, due tomorrow, $75. Her heart sank. She didn't have it, not with rent looming and a car repair bill from last week. She sat in her beat-up sedan, gripping the steering wheel, fighting tears. I can't let Noah miss this. That evening, James was at the diner, waiting in his usual booth. He took one look at her face and frowned. What's wrong? She tried to brush it off, but he pressed, his voice gentle but firm. Finally, she told him about the field trip, the money, the way it felt like she was always one step behind. I'll figure it out, she said, more to herself than him. I always do. James was quiet for a moment, then slid an envelope across the table. Take this. She opened it, her eyes widening. Inside was $100 in cash. James, no. I can't. You can, he said. It's for Noah. Let me help. Pride warred with desperation. She wanted to say no, to prove she could do this alone. But Noah's excited chatter about the trip echoed in her mind. I'll pay you back, she said finally, her voice tight. You don't have to. His eyes held hers, steady, sincere. But if it makes you feel better, I'll take a coffee as repayment. She laughed, the tension easing. Deal. The next twist came unexpectedly. A week later, Ellie was at the library with Noah when she overheard 2 women whispering. That guy in the fancy SUV? Heard he's some big shot from Chicago, running from trouble. Left a mess back there, lawsuits, bad deals. Ellie's stomach churned. James? She didn't want to believe it, but doubt crept in. Was he hiding something? That night, when he stopped by the diner, she confronted him. People are talking, James, about you. Lawsuits, trouble in Chicago. What's the truth? His face tightened, and for a moment, she thought he'd walk away. But he sat down, his voice low. It's not what you think. My company, I made choices I'm not proud of. Push people out, chase profits over promises. There's a lawsuit, yeah, but I'm not running from it. I settled it before I came here. I'm trying to start over, Ellie. Be better. His honesty disarmed her, but it also scared her. Why tell me this? We barely know each other. Because I want you to know me, he said, his voice raw. The real me, not the guy in the suit. Her heart pounded. She wanted to believe him, but trust was hard-earned, and her ex had left scars. I need time, she said finally. To think. He nodded, his eyes heavy. Take all the time you need. The climax came the next evening. Ellie was locking up the diner, alone, when her phone rang. It was Noah's school. He'd fallen during recess, sprained his wrist. They needed her at the clinic. Panic surged, but she had no car. It was in the shop again. She dialed James without thinking, her voice shaking. I need a ride. Noah's hurt. He was there in 10 minutes, his SUV screeching to a stop. He didn't ask questions, just drove her to the clinic, his hand steady on the wheel. At the clinic, Noah was okay. Just a sprain, a brace, and a week of rest. But Ellie was a wreck, her hands trembling as she held her son. James stayed, quiet, bringing her coffee, even making Noah laugh with a silly dinosaur impression. As they left the clinic, Noah asleep in James's arms, Ellie looked at him. Really looked. The man who'd been a stranger a week ago was here, in her mess, not running. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. He met her gaze, his eyes soft but intense. "I'm not going anywhere, Ellie." In that moment, under the clinic's fluorescent lights, something shifted. She saw him. Not the millionaire, not the rumors, but James, the man who showed up. And for the first time, she let herself hope. Ellie Harper stood outside Rosie's diner, the evening air cool against her skin. The neon sign buzzed faintly, casting a pink glow over the parking lot. It had been 2 days since James had driven her to the clinic, 2 days since he'd carried Noah, asleep, in his arms. His words, "I'm not going anywhere, Ellie," echoed in her mind, battling the doubts that kept her awake at night. Will I let him in? She wanted to, but trust was a fragile thing, and her heart bore the cracks of past betrayals. And then there was the other question, what's he still hiding? James had admitted to a messy past in Chicago, but his guarded eyes hinted at more. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. A text from James. "Can we talk?" "At the park by the library." "Please." Her thumb hovered over the screen. She could say no, keep her walls up, stay safe. But something in his tone, the same raw honesty from the clinic, made her type back. "Okay. Be there in 20. She dropped Noah off with Mrs. Carter, who gave her a knowing smile. "He's a good one, Ellie. Don't let fear make your choices." Ellie nodded, but her stomach twisted as she walked to the park. The truth was, she was scared, not just of James, but of what letting him in might mean for her and Noah. The park was quiet, the swings swaying gently in the breeze. James sat on a bench, his silhouette sharp against the fading sunset. He looked up as she approached, his face a mix of relief and nerves. "You came," he said, standing. "You asked." Ellie sat beside him, keeping a careful distance. "So talk. You said you're not going anywhere, but I need to know what's going on with you. All of it." James exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "Fair enough. I owe you that." He paused, his eyes fixed on the ground. "In Chicago, I wasn't just burning bridges with business partners. There was someone, a woman. Sarah. We were engaged years ago. I thought money, success would make us happy, but I got so caught up in building my company, I pushed her away. She left. I don't blame her. I was selfish, Ellie. I didn't know how to love someone right." Ellie's chest tightened. Engaged. The word hit harder than she expected. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because I didn't want you to see me as that guy," he said, his voice low. "The one who failed someone who trusted him. I came to Willow Creek to start over, but meeting you, it made me want to be better. Not just for me, but for you. For Noah." Her throat burned. She wanted to believe him, but her ex, Mark, had made promises too. Promises that crumbled when life got hard. "James, I can't do this if you're not all in. Noah and we've been through too much." "I know." He turned to her, his eyes searching hers. "I'm not asking you to trust me blindly. I'm asking for a chance to prove I'm here. For both of you." The sincerity in his voice cracked something in her, a wall she'd built long ago. But before she could respond, a voice called out, sharp, unfamiliar. "James Bennett." They turned to see a woman striding toward them, her heels clicking on the path. She was tall, polished, with auburn hair and a designer coat that screamed city money. Ellie's stomach dropped. "Who is she?" "Sarah," James said, his voice flat like he'd been punched. Ellie's heart stopped. "Sarah? His ex?" The woman stopped, her eyes flicking to Ellie, then back to James. "I've been looking for you. You left Chicago without a word." "I settled the lawsuit," James said, his tone guarded. "There's nothing left to say." "There's plenty to say," Sarah snapped, her voice sharp but trembling. "You think you could just walk away from everything? From me?" Ellie stood, her hands clenching. "I should go." "No, Ellie, wait." James reached for her, but she stepped back, her mind racing. He's still tied to her, to that life. Sarah's gaze softened, taking in Ellie's worn jacket, her defensive stance. "You're her, aren't you? The one he's been talking about." Ellie froze. "What?" James's face flushed. "Sarah, don't." But Sarah kept going, her voice softer now. "He called me last week. Told me about you. Said you're the reason he's trying to change." She looked at James, her expression a mix of pain and resignation. "I came to see if it was true, if you'd really changed." Ellie's breath caught. "He talked about me?" She looked at James, searching his face for lies, but all she saw was vulnerability. "Is that true?" she asked. James nodded, his voice low. "I called her to apologize, to close that chapter, because meeting you, Ellie, made me realize I want something real, not the life I had." Sarah stepped back, her eyes glistening. "I'm not here to fight, James. I just needed to see it for myself." She turned to Ellie, offering a small smile. "He's different with you. Don't let him mess it up." With that, she walked away, her heels fading into the night. Ellie stood frozen, her heart pounding. James took a step closer, his voice soft. "Ellie, I'm sorry. I should have told you about her sooner." She shook her head, emotions swirling. "You should have. But you called her to apologize. Because of me? Because you make me want to be honest," he said. "With you, with myself." The words hit her like a wave, washing away some of her fear. She took a shaky breath, stepping closer. "I'm scared, James. I don't know if I can do this." He reached for her hand, his touch gentle but steady. "Then we'll go slow as you need." For the first time, Ellie didn't pull away. She let his hand stay, warm against hers, and felt a spark of hope ignite. The next few weeks were a dance of caution and connection. James didn't push, but he showed up, bringing Noah a dinosaur book, helping Ellie fix a leaky faucet in her apartment, sitting with her at the diner after her shifts. Each gesture chipped away at her walls, but doubts lingered. Could she trust him? Could she trust herself to love again? One evening, as they walked Noah to the library for story time, James stopped her under a streetlight. "Ellie, I'm not perfect. I'll mess up, but I'm all in. For you, for Noah, if you'll have me." Her heart raced, but this time, she didn't look away. "I'm in too," she whispered. "But it's not just me. It's Noah. He's my world." James smiled, his eyes soft. "I know, and I want to be part of that world, if you'll let me." She nodded, tears prickling. "Okay, let's try." They didn't kiss, not yet. But as they walked on, Noah between them, Ellie felt something she hadn't in years. A future, fragile but real, taking shape. The reunion wasn't a fairy tale. Life didn't magically fix itself. Ellie still juggled bills, and James wrestled with his past, taking calls from Chicago to tie up loose ends. There were moments of tension, when Ellie's fear of being hurt flared, or when James's guarded nature made her question him. But they talked through it, slowly learning each other's rhythms. Noah, ever the glue, brought them together, his laughter filling the gaps. One night, at Ellie's apartment, James helped Noah build a dinosaur model while Ellie watched from the couch, a mug of tea in her hands. The sight, James's careful hands guiding Noah's, their shared grins, felt like a second chance. Not perfect, but hers. As James left, he paused at the door. "I'm not going anywhere, Ellie. Not unless you tell me to." She smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in years. "Then stay." He did. The end. Their story isn't over. It's just beginning. With trust to build and challenges ahead, Ellie and James are taking it one day at a time. What did you think of their journey? If this story touched you, comment where you're from and subscribe to the channel.